Hey there. Let's talk about something a lot of us have felt, that deep, nagging ache in your glute. You know, the one that feels like a stubborn knot that just won't go away. We usually just chalk it up to tight muscles, right? But as we're about to find out, there's probably a much more specific reason for that pain. So let's get to the bottom of what's really going on. I mean, does this sound familiar? You're just sitting there, maybe at your desk or in the car, and then you feel it, that one super focused, deep point of discomfort. You kind of shift around, maybe you try to stretch it out, but it just hangs on. It's so frustrating, and if you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And our go-to explanation is almost always, ugh, my glutes are just tight. But what if that's not the whole story? I mean, what if that one little pinpoint of pain isn't just general tightness at all? What if it's something else? Something that explains why your usual stretches just aren't hitting the spot. Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial distinction. Because, not all muscle pain is created equal. To really figure this out, we have to compare what we think of as general tightness with the very specific thing that might be causing that knot. This chart breaks it down perfectly. So on one hand, you've got general tightness. It's that broad, spread out, kind of aching feeling. But on the other hand, a trigger point. That's the specific, sharp, deep pain. It's the literal knot you can poke. And here's the real game changer. Stretching might help that general ache, but it often does next to nothing for a stubborn trigger point. So, let's finally put a name to the real culprit here. We're not just talking about tightness. We are talking about something called a trigger point. And just understanding this one term is a huge first step toward figuring out what's going on. All right, that sounds a little technical, I know, but let's just break it down into plain English. Hyper-irritable spot? That's just your super tender point. In a taut band of skeletal muscle, that's the tight, almost ropey feeling you might notice around it. And painful on compression? Yep, that's exactly why it hurts so much when you sit right on it. This visual here gives us a fantastic way to think about it. Imagine a tiny little section of your muscle fibers is stuck in a mini cramp. Seriously, like a Charlie horse that's just stuck. It's contracted, but it just can't seem to get the message to relax, creating that constant, nagging knot of tension right there where you see that plus sign. But it seems kind of crazy, right? How can one tiny little spot cause so much trouble? Well, the answer has everything to do with how it connects with our nervous system. This isn't just a muscle thing, it's a neuromuscular thing. Let's see how that connection actually works. Because in our bodies, nothing really happens in isolation. That tiny, irritated knot isn't just sitting there quietly. It's actually broadcasting a pain signal. And that signal can ripple outwards through our whole complex network of nerves. It's why the pain doesn't always stay put. Now take a look at the magnified view here. That angry little trigger point can actually irritate the nerves that run through or near the muscle. And when that happens, it can send pain signals shooting all the way down that nerve's pathway. This creates something called referred pain. Basically, you feel discomfort in a totally different spot from where the actual problem is. Wild, right? So, okay, why are we getting so specific about this? Why does this distinction even matter? Well, it's simple. You can't find the right solution if you don't know the right problem. If you're trying to treat a localized trigger point with broad stretches meant for general tightness, you're probably not going to get very far. All right, let's just quickly recap the big ideas here. First, that nagging knot has a name. It's a trigger point. And it is fundamentally different from just being tight. Because it's such a precise problem, that tiny little bundle of contracted muscle, it usually needs a much more precise solution. Honestly, just understanding this is the first real step toward actually targeting the source of the discomfort. So it really all boils down to this one simple but powerful idea. The next time you feel that deep, stubborn knot, just remember, it might not just be tight muscles. It could very well be a trigger point. And just knowing that changes everything. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Now that you can tell the difference between general tightness and a specific trigger point, how does that change the way you think about your pain? Because knowing exactly what you're up against, well, that opens up a whole new world of possibilities for finding relief. Thanks for digging into this with me today.